What's up, everyone? Joe Ferraro here. Let's try and get you caught up on what happened this past weekend and get a preview for you of what's going down this Saturday in the Ultimate Fighting Championship. First things first, UFC 187 went down at the MGM Grand, and if you missed it, Daniel Cormier became the undisputed UFC light heavyweight champion. Some people disagree with undisputed, but he is the world champion right now. He took out Anthony Johnson in the third round via rear naked choke. Chris Weidman took a bit of a beating from Vitor Belfort early on, but he returned fire and finished off the feed on that 2:53 of round one. Donald Cerrone took out John Makdessi. Makdessi basically quit standing up. He had his jaw broken. Andrei Arlovski and Travis Browne put on arguably the round of the year. Arlovski pulls off the TKO victory at 4:41 of the first round. And then Joseph Benavidez, he took out John Moraga, while on the prelims, John Dodson, a fellow flyweight, took out Zach Makowski. More on those two in a minute. The fights in the octagon were absolutely ridiculous, but what happened at the post-fight press conference was absolutely crazy. Daniel Cormier arrives there, gets on the microphone, starts talking, and basically calls out Ryan Bader, who was in the room. Bader took exception, basically rushed the stage, and those two guys went at it hardcore. It was unbelievable. I think it's safe to say that that's the fight the fans are eventually going to want to see. Dana White did say over the weekend that John Bones Jones will get an immediate title shot when he returns, but we don't know how long John Bones Jones is going to be out for, so don't be surprised if it's DC versus Bader in the very near future. As for Chris Weidman, Dana White said, look, Luke Rockhold is the number one contender, but it's likely going to be Jacare Souza. That's got everyone sort of in a tizzy right now because no one knows what's happening with that. As for Chris Weidman, he flat out said, I don't care if it's Luke Rockhold, I don't care if it's Jacare Souza, as long as it takes place in December at Madison Square Garden. Now, back to John Dodson and Joseph Benavidez. Joseph Benavidez made it pretty clear that, look, Demetrious Johnson has already defeated me twice. John Dodson, he said, look, it's a no-brainer. I'm next in line. Now, Joseph Benavidez to get a title shot versus Demetrious Johnson, that won't happen for a while. But if John Dodson does get that title shot, does defeat Demetrious Johnson, and there isn't an immediate rematch, that could open the door for Joseph Benavidez to take on John Dodson. Now, a bevy of matchups were announced over the weekend from the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And if you missed it, check this out. In Scotland, UFC Fight Night 72, Michael Bisping will take on Thales Leites in the main event. Ross Pearson takes on Evan Dunham in the co-main event, while Joanne Calderwood returns to the octagon and she'll take on Beck Rawlings. Holly Holm has her next fight announced. She'll take on Marion Renault at UFC Fight Night 71 in San Diego. OSP will take on Glover Teixeira at UFC in Nashville on August 8th. While Eddie Wineland returns after having his jaw broken, he'll take on Brian Caraway at UFC on Fox 16. And if we could circle back to Dana White for one more second, he basically mentioned that if Ronda Rousey takes on Chris Cyborg, that pay-per-view will do over 2 million buys. That to me sounds like another seed has been planted, or at least watering the previous seed, that this fight will eventually go down. And the Ultimate Fighting Championship announced who will be inducted into this year's UFC Hall of Fame. It'll be Jeff Blatnick. In the fight category, it'll be Matt Hughes versus Frank Trigg 2, as well as Boss Rutten, the pioneer. El Guapo gets into the UFC Hall of Fame, as well as the prodigy, DJ Penn. And don't forget, this weekend, Carlos Condit is back. The natural-born killer will be competing in Brazil, and he'll take on the Pitbull, Thiago Alves. And before we let you go, a crazy story from the UK as a woman was attacked by an assailant, and she's a kickboxer, and she basically took a self-defense course back in the day, was able to defend herself first via armbar. When it didn't work, she transitioned into a triangle choke and choked the dude unconscious. She was able to get away. That dude ran off into his car, was eventually caught, and he's been charged. All right, don't forget, later this week on MMAJunkie.com as well as USA Today Sports, I'll have a fan perspective video, a headline hunting video with John Morgan, and of course, a breakdown, the edge between Carlos Condit and Thiago Alves. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, or concerns, make sure you hit me up on social media at Showdown Joe, be it on Twitter, Instagram, or on Facebook. That's a wrap for me. Thank you very much for watching. Ciao for now.